did.
You know, what's his face walked around Westmoreland. He was a sergeant. Yeah, walked around with cards in his wallet from being a sergeant. And there's this thing with McNamara, this video that I watched, a documentary with McNamara, and it referenced him specifically. And the fact that he never thought like a general, he thought like a sergeant. And that was a problem for the United States Army at the time.
Well, I think that the problem with the United States Army came just as the problem with this particular conflict. It comes right from the top.
From the top, and we don't have any organic support, right?
Right, but the decisions that were made
without the support of the U.S. population, we're going nowhere.
Right, but the decisions were ultimately made by the commander-in-chief in both cases. So the armed forces can handle any tactical directive that they're given, I think, but the strategic outcomes of that have to be, you can't predetermine them, but you can preposition them in a way that is positive. I don't think in either of those, that war or this war, that was done. It was just felt in both wars, well, we could tactically beat the crap out of them, and therefore strategically we will win. Well, there's not necessarily that causation. And I think that was the problem here. But anyway, that's really not the issue. The issue is, have they over a barrel? They have us over an oil barrel, maybe. Tiger, followed by Anson.
Aha, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
I think that the U.S. government...
I think it's true that it looks like up to now, the Iranians seems to have the upper hand in the conflict. But I think it would be misguided to attribute this to be a or to pin this defeat as a result of Trump and his decision-making to a large degree. If you study the beginning of the war, honestly, nobody could have foretold what would happen after the first bombs struck the capital of Iran. Because, the observers at the time, I think this is true for us in the public, we're observing the conflict, but also true for the decision makers in Washington. There is the only uncertainty, especially to the decision makers in Washington, the only uncertainty that they had is how much effort it would require to actually knock over the Iranian government. And nobody had a clue. I remember following the conflict during the night of I believe Saturday or Sunday, and we were anxiously waiting the news of what would happen tomorrow, because prior to that weekend, there were reports of riots on the street in Tehran and attack of the police station in Isfahan and other places in Iran. So later we knew from the American media that Trump and his cabinet, together with some foreign influence, decided it was a worthwhile bet to go for regime change in Iran. And he could have succeeded in that because, especially in the West, when information about Iran is not very easy to get access to, a lot of not only Americans, decision makers, but also people in the crowd, the Iranian immigrants, they're all saying that all Americans need to do is to decapitate some of the leadership, provide some weapons, and the Iranians would just rise up and topple their own government. That could have happened, but I think it was a bet on Trump's part. He believed some intel, we don't know what exactly he has seen. So he went in for a bet, but what happened afterwards is that the Iranians, who didn't want a foreign invasion on their country, and the RGC, together with the government, have enough resilience to withstand the decapitation of basically, I would say, half of their important posts higher up, which is remarkable when you think about it. I think if you look at the countries nowadays, especially if it's not a Western developed country, if you eliminate half of their leadership, most countries would have fallen over. But it seems that Iran proved us wrong, and they're proven themselves to be extraordinarily resilient. So basically what happens is that they called Trump's bluff, and Trump always knew that he didn't have enough cards to play if the situation worsens, right? And a week ago, I gave the analysis that it's basically public intel that the United States does not have enough ammunition required to fight a prolonged war over 6 months. The United States do not have enough bases in the region to support a land war if the Iranians don't just topple over like a house of cards. So, yes, you could say that Trump made a mistake, but I think that would be to ignore the fact that there's a big trend going on in the region, not only in the region, but in the world, right? In the past 20 years, we have continuously witnessed the hollowing out of American industrial base. We have witnessed the overtaking of Americans in terms of technology by rival states such as China. We have observed that half of the industrial output in the world are in an adversarial state to the Americans, and America is producing less and less of an industrial share. And critically, a lot of the supply chains in America of whatever they could still produce rely on foreign components, whether they're from friendly or adversarial, supposedly, nations. So with this as the basis of analysis, we would know that Trump would also know, and all the generals in Pentagon would know, that had the situation worsened to what it is today, had the Iranians not fall over by a simple push of a few missiles, then America would be in an untenable position of trying to maintain a hegemony that they are no longer equipped or prepared to maintain. And I think this is what is happening today. It is not only on the American side, Americans being powerless to continue to wage this war, but even from the American allies. You see the more autonomous behavior of the Gulf states.
Okay,
forming their own alliance.
so I think you're going a little far afield from our more narrow discussion here. I'm not arguing your points, but I'm not so certain that they are directly related to the question at hand. And you said that there was no way of anticipating any of this. Would you agree that the domestic choke point right now on the president of the United States is the Strait of Hormuz? That this is what is driving his desire to get out of this and get the strait open and get the oil prices down as the midterm elections approach. Would you agree?
I wouldn't say so. I think it's more symbolic than what is actually happening. Because if you look at what's happening to the oil markets after the Hormuz has been closed down, or if you assume the fact, which is the reality now, that the Iranians have control over Hormuz, and all the regional players has to play nice with Iran, including America to some extent.
Right, but they did not have control over the Strait of Hormuz. You say that's just symbolic? That would be ignoring the very point you just made, that the oil prices have risen since they've choked the strait, correct?
Yes, but it actually has not risen to the point of what we would expect, right?
But it's risen to the point where it's put pressure on the president as the midterm elections approach, right? The American people are pressuring, and so my point is that this was predictable. He had been advised, if he read his intelligence reports, that it was likely that if you wipe out their traditional defenses, Iran's, they're going to just close the Strait of Hormuz and put economic pressure on the United States. And that's exactly what they did. So your initial argument was that this could not have been predicted, but I would counter that argument saying that it was absolutely predicted, and the president apparently ignored those predictions because they did not secure the strait before they started this campaign, and they allowed for Iran to do exactly what the Pentagon and the CIA and the DIA told him that they would do.
Well, I wouldn't say this is arguments against that argument, because what I meant with my earlier statement is that it is entirely predictable as an outcome if the Iranians did not fall in the initial strikes, right? And I said the misjudgment of Trump is not that he doesn't understand if he cannot topple the Iranian regime, then that would actually hands them over the control, the rights of passage of that Hormuz, which, according to geography, if US was not such a hegemon, it's not such a superpower, the Iranians would naturally assume for themselves, right? Because that's this geography. So the only way for them not to have control over Hormuz, or actually the only way for the Americans to dictate the traffic over Hormuz, is for them to topple the Iranian regime if they decide to initiate this conflict. I mean, the world was in a delicate balance before, but as I would argue, even if Donald Trump does not provoke this conflict at the time that he did, eventually it would still mean that American influence in the region would wane because of the change of balances of power. So I don't know if Trump was desperate or something, but he made a bet. And judging where America is, if he had won the bet, it would probably extend America's influence in the region for another decade or so, and buy Americans some time to reindustrialize and actually, compete again. But unfortunately, he lost that bet. So I wouldn't say it's that he. I mean, you could say how much blame he has in the misjudgment, but I still think it was a bet he took. And I don't think it's that he didn't understand the consequences of losing that bet. I just think that he still had to take those bets.
So ultimately, he took the bet and he lost. So the Iranians pulled one over on the United States, or not?
The Iranians, like I said, right, if they have enough organization, if they don't topple over, then the geography would mean that, and also the technology, right, they have, would mean that they will definitely retain control and have a say of who is to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, right? Because I believe a few months ago, I made this argument that the American power in the 90s was so strong in the region in a form that it was many generations ahead, especially in things like electronic warfare, right? They could topple the Iranian army by just using their electronics and disable all the radars on the ground. And there was nothing that the Iraqis had that could fight Americans back. But nowadays, what is really happening is that, first of all, American industrial base has eroded. They no longer produce adequate ammunition to sustain wars.
We don't have a
Their
defense
funding has
industrial
dried
base to
out.
speak of, or at least it's so bad it's not even funny.
Yeah, and
What's that?
also
I
on
missed
the
your point,
technology
Marshall.
level, the technology
So
level.
I was agreeing with Tiger. I'm saying we don't have a defense industrial base. This article I read about the U.S. Navy presupposed that the U.S. Navy was brittle because if you knock one of our assets out, it's going to take us years to replace it. And the Chinese Navy, if there's a battle in the Eastern Pacific, they can make ships in a couple of months, and we take a couple of years, which sticks us in a place where you can't respond. And essentially, the Chinese win the conflict in the Eastern Pacific. The United States Navy is not. I'm not. They wouldn't even let me be in the military, and I think the Navy needs some help. Let's put it that way.
But if you were in the military, you wouldn't be moderating in the critical thinking forum, so you are still serving your country. Thank you, Tiger. And we'll go on to Anson, followed by Amir.
He's a patriot.
Not only did Trump get played, the American nation got played. And it continues to play out, getting played day in and day out until when? 6 months ago, would it have been, if the question had been asked, you would, I think, at least in the Pentagon, you would have been laughed out of the room. Can the American Navy keep a vital sea lane open when the adversary threatens to close it with speedboats and model airplanes called drones? You've been laughed out of and look where we are today. The United States Navy cannot all the might and all the power of the United States Navy cannot open and keep open the Straits of Hormuz. And that lifeline of trade has been essentially strangled for what, 6 months now, 5 months plus whatever it is. I would also remind you, Gary, that reopening the Straits of Hormuz was not an original objective of the war, because no one thought that they would be able to close it. Remember, the Iranian Navy, about a week after the conflict started, the Iranian Navy ceased to exist. They had no navy other than speedboats and model airplanes, and yet with speedboats and model airplanes, they've been able to keep the strangulation on international trade. America has been played and will continue to get played, and I don't know what the end state is going to look like. But if we want to have a discussion, I would love to have a discussion with Tiger in this room, and about the decline and fall of the American empire over the last, I'll say, 30 years. I go back to at least 30 years, because the fall of the Soviet Union not followed a decade later by 9/11. America has been in decline, and so absolutely, Trump has been played. The American nation has been played, and I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it's not going to be good for the American people in the end, or for the world at large.
Well, if you're going to view it as you and Tiger do, as an indicative of an end of an empire, and how traditional means of warfare are met with untraditional means of warfare that catch the folks who are experts in traditional means of warfare, catch them by surprise. We could just look at the American Revolution. So,
well, we can also look. You're talking about traditional warfare met with unconventional warfare, and unconventional warfare won. Guess where that happened? Vietnam.
And Afghanistan with the Russians.
You betcha.
So I don't know.
And
We had to adapt to regular warfare
with the Americans, and Afghanistan, with the Russians.
Yeah, but Petraeus and the Crystal strategy was a huge deal in the early aughts.
Well, the other thing that I would briefly mention, but it's outside the scope of the room, there's an editorial or an article or something in the Washington Post said the United States was put off kilter by the 1930s, and in the 2030s the United States is going to be knocked flat, and then it begins to show all the curves and all the doomsday scenarios of national debt. A national debt will ultimately kill us, and I don't, it's the decline of the American empire certainly has been taking place for the last 30 years. What it's going to look like when it all steadies out, maybe like Great Britain is today, I don't know. But it was a huge mistake starting this war. We've lost it. There's no way we're going to regain our footing and, quote, win the war. And now we have to deal with what's left over. And in terms of Trump's demeanor by your MAGA,
they clipped me on Clubhouse.
that he seems to have lost his whatever, maybe, but you can be guaranteed whatever the outcome of the midterm election.
They're deleting all my Clubhouse accounts.
That we will have a lame duck government for the next 2 and a half years.
They deleted all my
As the
Clown
midterm
House
elections
accounts, but here we
are
are,
not
standing
going to
strong,
improve
recording
government.
still.
They're only going to exacerbate
Holy
further
shit.
the status quo.
Yeah, we're not going to get into it now, but one should think about what Nancy just said about the potential collapse of the United States as the world leader, and what that would be replaced by, because we know that when there's a void, somebody fills the void. And that's the part that, is potentially scary. Potentially. Could be something.
The question is, do we speak Cantonese or do we speak Mandarin? I understand Mandarin's a little easier to learn.
Or Arabic.
No.
Well, there's some who believe yes. You just made the comparison to England. England, there's a large Arabic-speaking population right now in England, filling a void there, I guess. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Anson. We'll go to Amir, followed by Emma.
Goodness me, there's a lot of doom and gloom going on in this room at the moment, Gary. Well, I'm going to sort of give you the devil's advocate version, I guess. What if Trump is playing the tactical retreat? I mean, you may ask why. I would say one of the strategies could be to disassociate United States from Israel. Now, why would he do that?
Why would he do that?
Well, think about this in this scenario. Well, there's actually a couple of strands to this. Trump could even agree to withdraw some of the troops, just to make a very positive gesture towards this particular tactic that I'm about to sort of elaborate on. Now, that would go down pretty well, I would have thought, with the American people. I mean, if I'm mistaken, tell me. But I would have thought withdrawing troops from the Middle East, partly from, maybe one or two of the bases, that would go down well. And it would help, it may even help the midterm, I don't know. So assume Trump is negotiating with Iran, and at the same time, it's detached itself effectively from any potential attack from Israel. Now, we know that Israel defenses have been beefed up in recent months.
Could you go back and repeat that? I missed the point you're making. Who detaches themselves from any attack from Israel? I missed the point for some.
Well, I mean, if Trump is to start negotiating with Iran and he starts giving some gestures like withdrawing troops from the Middle East, he's effectively, in his negotiations with Iran, is detaching itself from Israel. It's detaching itself.
So let me see if I can frame it in a different way and whether it fits with what you're saying. Because if it doesn't, I'm misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Doing so would give Israel the green light to do it what Israel thinks that it needs to do.
Israel doesn't need a green light. Israel has made.
I think Israel has been retarded in its abilities to do what it wants to do vis-a-vis Iran by President Trump, frankly.
Well, I think there was a clear pushback from Netanyahu. And I don't think that Netanyahu is going to compromise when it comes to the security of Israel. I think you even said.
I'm not suggesting that. I think that a lot of people in Israel are saying Trump was our man, but he's no longer our man. So they don't care.
Well, that's different. That's a different story, isn't it? I mean, the point is, let me develop the point because I have.
Okay. Maybe I'll understand it better if I let you go.
Yeah, I mean, so if US detaches itself militarily from Israel now, and we know that, as I said, Israel has been beefing up its defenses. It's not just the Iron Dome and David's Sling. It's also the TOD, fully replenished TOD, anti-ballistic, and the laser beam, which are anti-drone equipment. They're all in position now. So And they've also obviously diminished the threat from Hezbollah. So if you put all this together, now let's say there is a conflict between Iran and Israel, which is highly likely, because the nuclear material is still there. Excuse me. The aim to develop a bomb is still there, and there is and they're obviously pushing ahead with the development of the ballistic. So and there is no sign that they would let or release any of the proxies. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. So here's the key, I think. Should there be a conflict between Iran and Israel, Iran is no longer able to block the Strait of Hormuz and not be able to hit US bases. I mean, why would you? The excuse for attacking any of the Arab neighbors, any of the US bases in the Arab countries is removed. I mean, for goodness sake, US is now withdrawing troops. So why would you attack? So based on this scenario, I mean, if it is true, it's just a thought. Trump is not outplayed by any stretch of imagination, but it's rooting out a clever plan B, since plan A obviously failed miserably. This also, it also fits with the deterrent. Over the weekend, the Saudis, the Pakistanis, and the Turkish Prime Minister, they signed a joint defense agreement. Attack any of us, and you're attacking all of us. And that's a clear signal to Iran that do not think about attacking Saudi Arabia. So put all these together. What does it tell you? It tells you that Plan A failed. We didn't manage to topple the regime. They managed to block the Strait of Hormuz. The oil prices are going to be a massive problem. The war is not popular in the country. So what do? Let's detach ourselves from this, and let's, on the background, provide full support to Israelis and let them carry on with the job. And I think that's what I will leave it there and see what others have to say.
There is some evidence to support that possibility, and that is that recently Netanyahu outlined a timeline from which the Israelis would wean themselves from American support. And I think it's because of the frustration that the Israelis have, as much as they appreciate the U.S. support, is that there are strings attached. And I think that if the Israelis had their way, probably the decapitation campaign would not have ended when it did, because that's their method of operation, as you point out, against Hezbollah, against Hamas also. And so I think they would feel, they need to feel, I think that they're getting to the point in Israel where they want to feel independent from the United States. It may not be as much a pressure on the administration from people who are so critical of the U.S. policy toward Israel as much as it may be actually coming from the Israeli side. I'm not saying that it is, but it's something to consider. Thank you, Amir. We'll go to M.
Can I just add one other thing? Sorry about that, M. Just add some other thing. We all know that at military layer, Israel and America, they're going to be coordinating together no matter what. It doesn't matter what is said.
And intelligence gathering.
And intelligence, of course. And there is one other point here, and that is inside Iran. Let's not lose the fact that it may actually not come to that at all. And how would it not come to that? If Iran actually does a proper negotiated deal with America, to give up on its nuclear ambition, to give up on its proxies, to stop, meddling in other countries, and to basically curtail its regional ambitions. If it does that, then all good and well, and no war needs to happen. But if it doesn't, I would bet my bottom dollar that Israel is not going to let go of it. It's going to attack, and it's going to get the help this close from the Americans.
See, now you sound logical. Yeah. And when the president says it, it sounds logical. But with the Iranian regime, not the Iranian people, the regime, it's an illogical proposition because of their fanaticism, in my opinion. M followed by Daryl.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for this conversation. It's really a national conversation, global conversation, and very, very important. You mentioned, Gary, you mentioned Vietnam, and we know that based on the latest surveys, this war against Iran is more unpopular than even Vietnam towards the end of that war. The majority of Americans are against this war, which is really messy, it's miserable, it's painful for everyone. I mean, it's not for Iranian people who lost tens of thousands of people were killed or wounded. And in the name of, I wonder, those who say freedom. But the people who were killed in this war and wounded were also Iranian people, starting from that school, girls' school, the first day of
Well,
war.
let me ask you, tens of thousands of Iranians. What's your assessment of whose bullets killed the majority of those Iranians? Were they U.S. and
Yes,
Israeli bullets, or were they
Right.
Iranian
No.
bullets?
I'm talking about the war during the last 6 months, based on the information that you can Google and write information.
But every time that the Israelis kill a civilian in Gaza, it's a big story about how it's a genocide. So where are these big stories about this genocide of the Iranian people at the hands of the Americans and the Israelis?
No, they're talking about it, Gary. Everybody is talking about the school, and it started the first day, over 200 girls with their teachers.
Yes, we know about that, and we also
Right.
know that was a big screw up. That they didn't say, "Oh, here's a school with a bunch of Iranian schoolgirls. Let's target it." Right?
Well, you know that when there's tomahawk wars and the army knows what's going on, and they have everything based on exact.
So you're suggesting that the United States deliberately targeted a school full of girls because
Yes.
what would they gain by that?
Why?
I don't know. Criticism such as the criticism that you are articulating right now? That's a good move.
What in U.S. military history gives you the confidence that we bombed a school on purpose?
This is something that they have to answer, and you know that there
But
was.
No. That's not what I asked. What I asked specifically was, noting American military history from the inception of the country to now, what American military actions make you think that we attacked a girls' school on purpose?
Marshall, can I? Marshall, you already talked, and please let me just.
No. I need you to answer the question. I'm a moderator. I have the right to ask. I need you to answer the question.
What is your question?
What in American military history from the 1770s to now would give you the factual belief that the Americans would purposefully bomb a school?
So you are saying that it was not purposely; it was by accident.
That's not what I said. What I said specifically, and I will repeat it again. Do you think what in American military history? If you don't know American military history, that's fine. You can say that. You can say you don't know. But what in American military history makes you think that we would target a girls' school on purpose?
That's a good question. That is something that the general should answer, because they can.
No. It's something you should answer, because you're the person. You're the person making the declaratory statement. You need to answer. That's how that works. You need to answer it, not somebody else, but you.
Marshall, you raise a question, and please let me answer the question. I'm saying that I was watching what was going on in Congress, and the generals, they didn't say that, well, we did it by mistake. At least this is a good answer. I mean, they can come and say we did it by mistake. It's 6 months going on from that tragedies, and they are saying that we are still investigating.
No, now you are mischaracterizing the investigation. So the key findings of these are the official findings, as well as journalistic investigations found that the proximity of that school to a military infrastructure that was being run by the IRGC, an IRGC compound and naval base, which was hit multiple times, was based on outdated intelligence data. Reuters reported this a long time ago, that the U.S. military relied on flawed or outdated targeting database logs. The location was erroneously flagged as an active Iranian military facility rather than as a functioning school. It was a big fuck up by the Pentagon. It was an inexcusable fuck up by the Pentagon. And it was a terrible, terrible tragedy for which we have to collectively in the United States hang our heads in shame. It should never, ever, ever have happened. And we should grieve the loss of those children. But was it deliberate that the United States deliberately targeted a school? No. And the investigations thus far have shown the answer to that question to be no. It doesn't mitigate what happened. It happened. It was horrible. It was disgusting. When people bring it up, it causes me to become nauseous that our country did such a terrible act, but it was inadvertent. And nobody has to answer to you anything that hasn't already been answered. Now, if you want to argue that the CNN reporting about this, which was extensive, the Reuters reporting about this was extensive, and the analysis by the Pentagon is inaccurate, you can argue that the analysis is inaccurate. But to say that the generals never told Congress that it was done in error is wrong. That was a misstatement on your part, Daryl, followed by Andrew.
Hey, sorry I couldn't find the button. I wish Anson were still in the room because he said something that was so on point. And I guess to the question that you're asking, Gary, right? Were we played by Iran? And I would argue that, since after 9/11, there was this talk that, we basically avoided conflict with Iran because, it was always said, whether it was military or economic analysts, one of the first things they said was, they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. So I guess how I would flip that, if I said to you, Gary, I'm coming to your house, I'm going to do something, and you say, hey, if you do that, I'm going to I'm going to blockade the street, right? And I come and I do it anyway, and you then blockade the street. Did you play me or did I play myself by not actually listening to what you said you were going to do? It's this idea that, the Iranians have out-trumped Trump is something I don't understand because, again, this is just something that's been said for the past 20 years. If we do this, this is going to be the equal and opposite reaction of this action. And look at the tentacles of this, right? We are now knee deep in a global economic crisis that I don't think anyone could have predicted. UAE left OPEC. We're now, doing swap lines for, countries that aren't getting their oil. This is the part that I think is going to have the longest impact on particularly America. The idea that, I didn't come up on stage, but last week someone said that there's no proof that China is helping Iran when there's absolute documented reporting that they're selling them shoulder-fired missiles. And there was a report in the Times, I think it was on Friday, that China is now helping Cuba with alternative energy supplies because it would appear that our next target is going to be Cuba, and China's already in there trying to help them figure out how to, put off this American attack. If the question is, did Iran play Trump? Did we play ourselves in this conflict? Because it's only playing, it seems to be only playing out exactly as people said it would play out. So then the question becomes, why didn't someone listen? To someone's comment before about this war is unpopular, the reason this war is unpopular in America is because we are losing. If we were showing that we were winning, I just think historically you'd probably see more people thinking that this is a good thing. I don't see where ignoring what I call the tentacles of this conflict into people's actual pocketbooks and onto their kitchen table is something that people are just willing to say, okay, we're just going to overlook this because we're not actually winning this conflict. And again, to Anson's point earlier, the shifting narrative did not help the messaging, and the shifting outcome did not help with messaging. And I just think the economic outcome is absolutely hurting a lot of people in this country. So I don't think the Iranians played Trump. I think basically, or outplayed Trump. I think maybe we outplayed ourselves. And I'm putting myself in that. I'm an American.
Well, the previous caller that I ripped for his misstatement about the explanation of the Tomahawk attack on that girls' school just across the fence from the military base in Iran. Set that aside. One of the things that he said is true, that the polling would show that the American support for this war is, at least in some of the polling, shows even lower support than Vietnam at the end. And you cannot prosecute a war without the support of the people. So your observations are very apropos, Daryl. Andrew, followed by Simon. Or Simone, I don't know. I think it's Simon, though. Andrew.
Good afternoon, Gary. I'm going to agree with Daryl. I don't know that I'd put the blame on the American populace as much as I would on the administration in particular.
I didn't put blame. I'm just saying.
Daryl.
I said you cannot prosecute a war without the support of the people.
No, I get that. I understand that. But what I was going to say is that I believe that Donald Trump believes his own press clippings, if you will, in regards to Venezuela. I think he thought this was going to be an easy kill and an easy stop, but it's turned out the other way around. There's a lot of failures here in terms of the planning that had been done previously, the war games that had been played out, that information being available, watching the world as it is in terms of the Ukraine-Russia conflict and elsewhere, where their use of this asymmetric warfare is ongoing and having great success. So I think there's a lot of different things going on at the same time. Also, you got to consider too that Iran is not sitting in isolate. They're looking at the United States as much as you're looking at them. And I'm sure over the last 20 years or so, they've recognized the divide within the American populace in terms of, left-right divide, and could see that is playing out now in terms of prolonging this conflict with the asymmetric abilities and seeing that there is no support for this war. So I think Donald obviously made a mistake here. I don't know how they're going to get out of it myself. The straits were open, and that's such a small choke point. It's so easy now with this drone technology to bombard that area as ships go through. It's not like being out on the open seas or large straits where you have to have that kind of naval force in order to repel an opposing force. It's land-based. And until and unless, I'm sure that they thought too that until and unless the United States commits to a ground invasion, that just bombing them was not going to work to any large degree. So I do believe that Donald outsmarted himself by not listening to good advice and taking only that advice which he himself wanted. And during World War II, our adversary was Adolf Hitler. And one of the things that we did on this side of the world was we studied the man psychologically, did psychological profiles. That was done in order to understand the enemy. And I'm sure that the Iranians have done the same. And look at Donald Trump since 2016, maybe perhaps before, his statements, etc., and have used that information accordingly. Thank you, Gary.
Just like they probably did a psychological study of Ronald Reagan and decided to release the hostages. This is not dissimilar to another major event in world history when an engineer at NASA presented a PowerPoint presentation which pointed out a single point of failure on the space shuttle. And he warned that the O-ring was potentially vulnerable and that a single O-ring on that multi-million-dollar spaceship carrying human beings could fail and cause the Challenger to explode. And his advice to his bosses at NASA were ignored. In fact, there's some reporting that they fell asleep during the PowerPoint presentation. Some of them dozed. They were not paying attention. And look what happened. A single point of failure. When I walk into a restaurant, or I walk into a bar, or I walk into a theater, or any other place of public accommodation, do you know the first thing I look for, Andrew?
Joe, tell me.
The multiple means of egress.
Sure. I always look for that.
I want to know every potential exit from that building should there be something untoward occurring while I'm in it. You cannot have a single point. If you only have the front door of a bar or a restaurant is the only way in or out, and there are restaurants and bars like that, you have to recognize that you are taking a risk by going into that facility, because if that entrance is blocked during an emergency, you could be DEAD.
Yeah, and we also saw that with the Houthis and their attacks last year on the Red Sea, in that area, that particular point of egress, and that should have been contemplated as well. And the other thing I just wanted to mention in terms of the mercurialness of Donald Trump is that the Wall Street Journal has reported on the weekend that the administration, or some people in the administration, are saying that Donald Trump is now reconsidering the whole nuclear side of this equation. That was ostensibly the reason for the war in the first place, in that he would be able to see through to a 20-year ban within Iran on further nuclearization towards that. But we will have to see if that actually pans out. That was reported in the Wall Street Journal on the weekend.
Thank you for that, Andrew. We'll go to Simon, followed by Agent.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you. Obviously, being from the UK, I'm going to give a European, or certainly definitely a UK perspective. And it has been a journey in a way. The starting point is that the UK's perspective, and I'm talking about people on, just the man on the street, not everybody, obviously, but is that there was a belief in a special relationship with America. Okay, now that may absolutely not be an American's view of the relationship with Britain, but it is, from our point of view, obviously going right back to the Second World War, and we've been shoulder to shoulder militarily, Afghanistan, Iraq, and certainly from an intelligence services perspective. So that's where we were. Then Trump arrives. Now, some of the things that he highlighted and was not happy with, for example, the amount of money that we may spend on our own defense and European spent on their defense in relation to NATO compared to what the Americans, I think they were justified. However, then it became the tariff. And I think probably it's like, what, America's imposing tariffs on us? I mean, I thought we were friends. Now, that is not necessarily a very logical thought process, but his attitude. So, for example, when we decided we weren't for this first time, and there was probably, a natural inclination, okay, they're going to war, we'll go to war. But no, leaders decided not, because they didn't believe in it, and they saw presumably all the problems that are going to come out of it, which is clearly what's happening now. And then Trump will go and criticize us for our previous support militarily in Afghanistan. Oh, we were, in the background. We weren't on the front lines. And that became insulting. So over a process of him being Trump, and clearly didn't give a toss about the special relationship, it became clear. Then observing him in power as a leader of his own country, seeing the attack on Capitol Hill, seeing the way that he used executive powers that really weren't designed.
Which has what to do with Iran?
Well, no. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it was just narrow that. So anyway, we've learned that we're not in a relationship with you anymore, and the perspective as a consequence.
Not in a relationship, or the relationship has changed.
Well, it's not the same. It's not the same, so it's changed. And now, but that will then obviously...
We can no longer call it the special relationship. We used to when we were in keeping with Bretton Woods and that kind of multilateral vision of the world. But Donald Trump, much like Richard Nixon, is an imperial president. And they view America in an imperial fashion. And I think that is very hard for our ally across the pond to swallow, noting that Churchill essentially bequeathed it to us at the end of the war, and hoping we would carry on the same tradition. It's got to be a little upsetting as somebody from the UK to see America mismanage empire in this way.
Well, I'm not upset. What I'm just saying is we're going in a different direction. Okay? Now, is that good for you? I don't know. I mean, he's not taken seriously from our own leadership to the average man on the street. It's
No, I
what's
don't take
coming
it
up.
seriously. It's really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, well, I can imagine it. I can imagine it is hard. So really, we're just in a, well, we just got to wait out until he's gone. And I don't know if you feel like that, but the reality is, in going back to now the Iran situation, well, everybody's completely confused. Everybody's completely confused as to what's going to happen, why it happened. Straits of Hormuz and the fact that Iran closed it down, that was never even mentioned at the start of the war as a possibility. But there you go. Oh,
it may not have been mentioned publicly, but it was mentioned in the intelligence reports that were presented to the President of the United States, who's also the Commander-in-Chief. Agent followed by D.
I think it's always amazing when we talk about Iran and the war going on, the military actions going on, and people almost don't even mention the word nuclear weapon anymore in this context. Unlike the fake, intel and the manufacturing of consent that happened with the Iraq War, where there was actually, despite turning over the entire country of Iraq, we really found little to no evidence of nuclear weapons. Iran has had a very active nuclear program, and then we know that they have something close to enough material, 60% enriched, certainly for plenty of dirty bombs, but certainly, enough material that was within striking distance of being capable of making 11 nuclear bombs.
Right, and to that point, Agent, in the Axios article, which the interview he had with Axios Sunday, which prompted today's discussion, and as I pointed out during the opening salvo, which you apparently missed, there is no mention of their nuclear capabilities. So what the hell is going on here? If he's not willing to even address the nuclear capabilities of Iran, has he been totally played by the mullahs?
I won't claim to, I'm not part of the daily intel briefings of the president, so I'm not going to claim to really have insight on exactly the current status of the nukes and that the mullahs possess and everything now, or how far away they are. If they're still 2 weeks away, or is it now 3 weeks, or how many weeks away? I'm not sure.
Right, but he said like a week ago, he repeated that we will not withdraw until we have secured all of the nuclear weaponry and the nuclear dust. Now he's not saying that any longer.
Well, something struck me from the last speaker, and a couple things were said about not taking him seriously. I think that's always been the flaw of many people around the world, especially his critics, not taking him seriously. But at the same time, people make the other mistake of taking him literally. I don't take anything. I honestly don't pay much. You got to take everything with a large spoonful of salt whenever he says something. So it might.
Yeah, but this is the President of the United States articulating the policies of the government that's engaged in a military conflict with another nation and saying that this is our goal. And now he is changing what the goal is. So are you saying that we can't take him at his word on any of this? I mean, look, I have a personal baseline when it comes to any president. And that is, if you're going to put Americans in danger, ask them to make potentially the ultimate sacrifice, you have to be honest with the American people about what you were doing. And so, has he been dishonest with us? Then that's unconscionable if he's dishonest with us, right?
I think you can assume, given his pattern of behavior in all of his life, that he's not putting honesty as his first concern. And he may very well be very dishonest about specifics about what he's doing. I would say directionally, he's trying to do right by America and its allies at some level. I don't think he's, and I don't think he's a traitor. And I think he's balancing the risks that he sees it, and he's making the best decision that, and it could be that he took a bet, like someone else framed it as he thought he was taking a bet on something and the bet didn't work out, and now he's playing the hand that he's dealt, or as the game is going along, and that's certainly I think reasonable way to frame it. I can't tell you when this thing's going to end, but a lot has to do with the leadership, or whatever you call it, in Iran. I think there's a bit of a mess now with the Strait. Clearly, a tremendous amount of good comes through that region that are. Some people rely on the fertilizer. There's a certain amount of food supply even that's downstream of this, and there's a food security for many people. It used to be for much of something like 20% of the world's fossil fuels at least comes through there. So adjusting that, and if this whole thing is shut down for a while, it's a big deal. At the same time, without being willing to, as you frame it in terms of American lives and everything, without being willing to go boots on the ground, or being hesitant to go boots on the ground, that seems like the only way to be willing to sacrifice tens of thousands seems like the only way that this thing's really going to be decisively secured in a lasting way. And no, I don't think we currently have the stomach for it. We might work our way up to it. We may build some kind of coalition with others, or, I think the thing now is just kind of maintaining the stalemate position and, seeing if the other side folds. I think that's a reasonable. We're only a few months into this. I know it was promised that this thing would be over in 2 weeks or whatever it was. That was delusional, if not just deliberate lie. I don't know, but I do think that Trump has hinted. I mean, let's take something to be said as a possibility, which is, well, we're going to stay the course until we get everything we want. That at least is within the range of possibility that this thing could go on for years until, or at least many, many more months until there's a better, more secure position. But I think regardless, there's so much money on the line.
And now we've lost you. Sorry, Agent. David, followed by Catherine. David. Catherine. There you go. Go, David. Go.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think I mean, Trump is clearly in a pickle. He's 80 years old. His health is not well. I think he was banking on, a legacy here that would have gone down with Netanyahu at the start of this thing, been successful. I mean, keep in mind, for 47 years, Iran has dogged the Israeli government, not just in Israel, but other parts of the world.
Not just the Israeli government, but our government.
And so the optimism here to finally dispatch this regime. I mean, recall Netanyahu paid 7 visits to the White House as a run-up to this. He finally said, hey, we got our guy in the White House. We got the most powerful military in our corner. The Iranian regime is weak. The people want regime change. I mean, there's a whole litany of positivity going in to the decapitation of this regime. And I heard one of the elements of this was one of the elements of this campaign was challenged by Erdogan, which didn't want to see the Kurds brought in to a ground invasion as potentially causing problems on his front. So, and now we're seeing this pact created by the wealthiest Arab state in the region, Saudi Arabia, the nuclear power in Pakistan, and the biggest military in the region, one of NATO's biggest militaries in Turkey. And, you know, this is the check on the ability of the United States to defend the region and the massive oil interests and to their economy and our economy, that they've run out of trust, they've run out of confidence, our ability to keep Iran from firing upon them. And so what does that do for Israel in the region as the hegemon? It weakens their hegemonic stability there further. But I also heard that it was a play against the Houthis and Iran's proxy wars as they continue to destabilize the shipping and the maritime routes of the oil tankers.
So do you consider all of this an indication that he's been played, or that he is the play?
He got in over his skis. He had too much confidence. I mean, he had the wrong guy in the chair, Gary. He had the wrong guy in the chair. Defensive Hegseth was not. He was in over his skis. He did not have the acumen or the ability to wage this war. He ignored his Joint Chiefs of Staff with regard to the Hormuz question, and that's clearly blown up in his face. And now what's really probably bothering him and worrying him the most, Gary, is if these oil prices continue to inflate and rain down. I mean, we just saw the massive hemorrhaging of job losses. We're seeing his policies, his economic policies, play out in real time on the domestic front. And if the washout, irrespective of the democratic socialist positions that we've talked about, irrespective of those folks that have been winning, and whether or not middle America is worried that this country is going communist or socialist, he could lose both House and the Senate and then be bogged down in investigation after investigation, not to mention the inability to get the funding for this war or for this campaign even further. And his lame duck president status is assured, not to mention another impeachment possibility. So there's massive implications here. And I think, you know, what started out as great intentions has turned in, you know, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And, I know whether or not you believe in a hell or not, but we're facing a hell here. We're facing a hell based on good intentions, completely blown up in our face. And the best path forward is to somehow broker and continue to create the stalemate sort of arrangement. And he may just have to cut some checks to get these straits open again. Otherwise, the costs are going to be far more formidable down the road.
I think that I just looked this up. I think there were only 3 generals who have ascended to the Secretary of Defense. And in each case, I think there had to be a special dispensation by Congress for them to become, because they hadn't been retired long enough to go into such a position. And the 3 were, very notably, George C. Marshall, James
Mattis, and I was going to say Eisenhower, but not Eisenhower.
No, it was Biden.
Lloyd Austin.
Biden's the guy, right?
Lloyd Austin. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I would suggest that a George Marshall, a James Mattis, and a Lloyd Austin as Secretary of Defense, advising the President of the United States that he probably would go his own way regardless. I think. Maybe not. What do you think, David? In other words, you made the point, David, that Hegseth is way over his head. But if you took somebody with the credentials of a Marshall, a Mattis, or an Austin, do you think things would be any different? Or do you think the president would just go on his merry way as he is right now?
I think I think he got too many yes folks around him that cheerleaded him into this and didn't put.
That may be, but I'm just asking if you had a strong, a person with the strong military backing of a Marshall, a Madison, or an Austin. Do you think that would have changed anything, or do you think he would be listening to those folks?
Well, if you recall the first administration, they called it the adults in the room were surrounding him in a way that was shielding his impulses from being played out in real time. So I think he respects the military. He respects those generals. I think he believes in his own mind that he's one of those guys, that he's done enough for the country to deserve the hardware that those guys wear. And I think a Patton, an Eisenhower, somebody of that ilk, even a Schwarzkopf, he was a big voice in the first Gulf War. And I mean, I think those guys could say, look, Mr. President, if you go into Iran, I'm resigning. We are not going to win this, and we're going to be bogged down in Iran. Our weapons, our missiles are low capability. We don't have the appetite for troops on the ground.
And you think he would listen to them? Because I'm certain that this is the kind of thing that he was told in his intelligence briefings. The Pentagon certainly knew how much munitions they had in hand going into this war.
What I also question, Gary, is this as critical as Israel's right to exist is in this world today, with all that's going on, and the amount of defense and intelligence that they procure on a daily basis, where were those smart guys in the room warning Netanyahu that America can't help us pull this off? At least not.
I have a theory about that, but it's not for today. But I have a strong theory about what happened there.
Okay.
Happy to discuss it with you sometime, but I don't want to take us off topic. But I have a strong theory, and the problem there was not in Jerusalem. The problem there was in Washington, in my opinion. But and I bet you the U.S. ambassador to Israel would be in agreement with my assessment. Thank you, David. We'll go to Catherine, followed by Iman.
Thank you for all this discussion and meaningful questions raised, because I hadn't thought through piece by piece. And one question earlier, I thought, is there any typical war protocol, say before you bomb this, send a drone over, take a picture, like do some surveillance? That would be my question in the congressional hearings. Like what is
you're talking about? What
surveillance is usually done before bombing.
Are you talking
like some kind of surveillance is usually done?
Are you talking specifically about the girls' school?
Yeah.
I don't think that happened.
It's one thing to say they had some old, maps, but we've also heard specific people get targeted in their homes and their family, So it doesn't quite hold water. And when I've thought of the George Floyd things, I said, well, what is the police protocol? What is supposed to happen?
Right. It's a fair question. Just remember that those targeted attacks that occurred in Iran were made by the Israelis. This attack, the Tomahawk attack that hit the wrong, and by the way, the Israelis can make a mistake too. I'm not saying that they couldn't, but I'm just saying in the instances that you refer, you try to reconcile those precise, very precision drone attacks that took out the apartments of the Iranian leadership and left everybody else unscathed. That was an Israeli operation. The Tomahawk attack on the school, that was a U.S. operation. And they obviously didn't know that they had made a mistake, because they came back and did it again. They hit them more than one time. So they really thought that they were hitting a legitimate military target, and they screwed up. That's all that can be said about it. And it's horrible and inexcusable. But that's what it was, a screw up.
Yeah, and I happen to meet just, reverence of people losing their lives in this way. At one point, there was an artist putting up pictures of, unfortunately, people who were in a shelter being told this is where you need to go, a bunker, be safe in there, but they bombed the bunker. And so
Who bombed what? Where are you
this
referring
was
to?
I think it could have been the Iraq War. I'm not sure which, but
Okay, but we're talking about Iran right now. But
I know, but it's not the first time I've heard of this. Like somebody's being told go here, or was it a complete mistake? I mean, even
okay. So during the Iraq War, the United States got bad intel that they should not have accepted. That some enemies of the United States were meeting for some high-level confab at a remote location in a big house, and the United States bombed that place, and it was somebody's wedding.
oh no, yeah.
Okay, the United States didn't say, let's go kill all these people going to the wedding. They operated on faulty information.
Oh, they did?
Their partner was the head of some little militia, and the guy whose daughter was getting married was the head of an opposing militia. So he fed the United States disinformation in order to take out his rival on the ground. And the United States did his bidding for him, but it wasn't like the United States said, let's hit this because we're going to get criticized for killing all these people at a wedding. But so what? Let's invite them for this. In the fog of war, mistakes are made. I'm not excusing them, but I'm explaining that all of the investigations, both by the Pentagon and the independent investigations by journalists, have reached the conclusion that this was a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. That's all it was.
Well, and I want to, honor just to take a minute, remember the loves lost in Kitover. They are pure.
I agree. That is death. That is death. I agree.
Waking up our souls. I actually after the day, but just for the record, because people don't hear about it enough, that there was another mistake made where, the truth is, I'm not sure which conflict that you could have not met the U.S. per se. If I were more on the ball, like I am now, 15 years ago when I heard about this artist had taken photographs of the children who were against the wall and terror and was, it's a terrible, terrible thing to think about. But people said people won't believe us if there's it's take pictures, tell people. So I saw which was hanging up the exhibit.
It's of course it happens all the time. We're moving on, but I just want to point out that when we look at this, and we should look at it, and I'm not saying we should not look at it, let's not forget that tens of thousands of people, civilians, children, women, old people, have been killed by the Iranian regime, by their own government, for the simple crime of protesting. Of course, we should not ignore what happened to those school children. It's terrible, it's horrible, it should not have occurred. It's disgusting. But let's not forget, when we talk about that screw-up, the deliberate killing of civilians, the extrajudicial killing of people, left, right, and center, that continues today at the hands of this regime in Iran. Are we just going to choose which victims we mourn based on who was responsible for their deaths? Or are we going to pray for the souls of the others, the tens of thousands who are being killed by the Iranian regime? There is hell to be paid within the U.S. military for that mistake, and the U.S. intelligence community for that mistake. I don't know what hell, but I'm sure somebody's careers, at the very least, have been derailed because of some decision that was made that resulted in that attack on that school. And there's congressional hearings about what happened at that school. Are there parliamentary hearings in Iran about the tens of thousands of people who are being killed? Why are we we killing our own people? Do we see that? No. So while we flail ourselves for our screw up, which we absolutely should flail ourselves for our screw up, let's not lose sight of what's happening in Iran. You can say that's none of our business. That's an argument to be made. But there's another argument to be made that we are all God's children and we should be concerned about each other. We should not just be concerned about who we kill or who Israel kills. How about the people that the regime in Burma/Myanmar kills, their own people? Just because of their ethnicity, they kill them. They're not even out protesting like these people are in Iran. You could say, if they were out there protesting, they wouldn't have been killed. All right, the people in Burma aren't out there protesting, but they're being killed because the military junta doesn't like that ethnic group. We don't pray for the souls of those people. We don't even recognize what's happening to those people. Let's be consistent. Haman followed by Martin.
Hi, Gary. Thank you for such a nice conversation and discussion. I really enjoyed that. One thing I noticed that I think we should forget about the big picture really in this situation about Iran. It's about the midterm election or about Trump as the president. It's about the long-term relationship with U.S. benefits. We have a government in Iran that is looking for hostility against us. We have a government in Iran that is doing anything possible in their hands to destroy America. I know this because I'm an Iranian American. I was born and raised in Iran. So we talk about government in Iran that there is not a pursuit of happiness or growth or economic growth or a good life for its citizen. But its goal is that to destroy America and Israel. And this is you. We have heard that from politics. This America's slogans in the past 40 years. And I'm telling you, this is not just empty words. This is what they have been acting on. And you can look at what they've been doing, all these resistance groups that they have been building around Israel in the region. And if you just simply look at what they've been asking the United States to do, just the administrative rules, they're saying that the United States has to be abandoned all the bases in the countries in the region. I think this confrontation, this military confrontation with the United States and Iran is inevitable. No matter how long you could ignore this, you could have presidents that come in and meeting and say, okay, we're just going to deal with Iran and let them do whatever they want. But the more stronger they become, the more difficult it becomes for the United States to deal with them. I think October 7th was just a glimpse of that. Because, you leave a country, you give them the money in their hands, and you just leave them alone. And over time, all of a sudden, you deal with it once and then it's almost impossible to deal with. Well, I think dealing with Iran is inevitable. That's something needed to be happening. Maybe not President Trump getting involved like maybe other president, but that's something we have to do. But the problem is, now you have to deal with Iran. How would you deal with it? Look at what happened in the region. You have Iraq, you have Afghanistan, you have Libya, you have Syria. The ultimate goal, not to forget about, is not to simply overthrow the government in Iran. And the goal is not also to make an ally out of the Iranian government. The goal is that to make a neutral government in Iran. And why I'm saying that? Look at what happened in Afghanistan. We were okay to hand over Afghanistan back to Taliban as long as they're not attacking us again. We're okay to have the militia groups in Iraq as long as the Iraqi government is not seeking assaulting U.S. government. We're okay with having like a dictator in Syria as long as the Syrian government is okay to live peacefully with Iran.
Okay, so basically I just have to do kind of home plate, that's why. But honestly, maybe we'll show up because it'll be late if I do show up. And I do have work tomorrow. But I do want to tell you that I want you to put effort into this.
Of course, my darling, I am.
Will you? Are you gonna prove it to me?
I'm proving it to you every moment, my darling.
Okay, well I want you to come here.
You want me to come to your house?
Come here, yeah.
Okay. Let me hop in
No,
this.
not inside though, but I need you to drop something off.
Oh, you just want me to drop something off and then leave?
No, we can do something real quick, but I can't go there. You need to come here.
Why?
This time.
Why?
So I really need to take a client me time, remember?
You don't need to take it, my love. You can. You should consider not taking it because a certain percentage of people have adverse reaction to it, and I really don't think you need to take it.
Anyways, I'm just gonna come here and drop off something and take it, okay?
Okay, darling.
Okay. Just bring it here. And maybe just maybe we can like go to like, I don't know, supply store or something. What is office supply?
Okay. Sounds fun. Sounds fun. Okay, I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
I'm an internationally known talent. I deserve more than that.
I don't think so. I'm just gonna stay home. Fuck, should never have bought it.
But the girl's going through some shit, whatever. Ends up her mom supporting everything she wants to do. The school, because the girl's going to the counselor and, she's having issues, they're involved with her emotional situation. So mom is like trying to do everything right. Okay. By the end of high school, the girl was on the hormones, right? She's a boy now, all the shit. Okay. Our kids are now grown with kids. Most of them have children and everything. So, they're in their early 20s now. The girl now has decided that she's done, like she knows she went through some shit. Her life was crazy. And she's now suing her mom for putting her on those pills as a kid. The whole town know they got her mom out here looking crazy. Now her mom is like sickly. You see the lady, she looks like life has beat her ass up. And truthfully, people that are beating her up, it's not fair because the pressure from the community, the people that watch this shit, the Democratic people that are really tripping off, they pressured, it was like a mindset for them. I sat up here and watched these grown people. So to see it all reverse on her and her daughter to grow up and be like, what in the fuck did you do to me? Why did you allow that to happen to me? I was going through something. You should have locked me in my fucking room. That's what the girl told her. You should have locked me in my room. Like her mom's like, yeah, I thought I would have went to prison. Well, yeah, and guess what? The ACLA, some government program, it provided this girl a damn lawyer to sue her mama. And who knows what's going to happen with the case, but it's happening right now. It's very crazy. There's more kids that's like that. The shit's a fad, like most things that kids do. And then cut your fucking kid's leg off and give him an eye patch. He wants to be a pirate. Like, you have to, this whole shit is crazy. And yes, there are neighborhoods, affluent neighborhoods especially, where people are giving their kids what they can to appease them for the amount of work that they got to goddamn do to pay their mortgage, right? That are dealing with this shit. So no, Rob, it's not just everybody has the same shit. Of course, there's other kids that I know that obviously didn't have none of this going on. It's not everywhere. But in particular areas, it's rampant. And people have the right to vote for their jurisdiction.
Well, my
so it
advice
doesn't
would be
flow over.
any parent, if you concerned about that type of stuff, because I was concerned about the type of stuff my son specifically, when we were enrolling him in school, would be exposed to. Thankfully, in HISD, as much flack as they give Houston Independent School District, it does have a school choice program that says if you can get your child to another school, and especially if they can pass the testing and all that, they can go to any school you can get them to. Thankfully, my son excelled. He passed all of the tests. So we found a school that was better for him that was still in the program. I mean, still in the HISD area. This is my point. Like, and I ain't like no rich parent. My son's mom ain't no super rich woman. Like, we just concerned parents. If I was concerned about my kids being indoctrinated with MAGA stuff, I wouldn't put my kids in a school that's rooted around a bunch of MAGA people. So take that in the saying that I'm concerned with liberal indoctrination. I wouldn't put my kids in a situation to where they could be easily indoctrinated. That's just my thought process on it. Furthermore,
Rob, you don't want people around like me. You don't want your loved one around people like me. Hell no. Come on, man.
I hear you, Mom.
Come on,
I
Rob.
will say, Rob, you hit a strong point, but then there is liberal policy that trumps your point. And this is what I mean. I'm in a state where you almost elected my current governor as the vice president, right? So all of the Democrats in the room, hear me clear. You almost made this a federal policy.
Come on.
Because this man started it. And I don't want nobody to come off their mute without hearing the full context before you talk. Now, the law doesn't explicitly say we're going to transition your kids. What the law says, and I want you to understand what's possible, because I'm going to explain possibility and actually happening after the law. Our governor, Governor Tim Walz, enacted an executive order that then became a bill and became a law in the state of Minnesota, completely liberal state of Minnesota. The law says that we will support the gender affirming care of any child above 7, irregardless of their parents' opposition. Matter of fact, they made it a crime to oppose your child's gender identity crisis, right? It's a crime to call it a crisis here. What happens here is if your child above 7 and above can make it to an emergency locale, that's a hospital, that's the
some school location,
schools, anywhere where there's a mandated reporter. They can tell the mandated reporter that you are not affirming their gender identity. Minnesota will begin the process to unparent, remove you as a sitting parent, and enact the state as the parent of the child and begin gender affirming care. This, please don't interrupt because it gets worse. Not only can we do that for kids in Minnesota, but kids in Texas who can make it up 35 to my state, we will stop your state from coming to get your child. This is a law. I don't want you to argue with me until you've actually read the law. You all made this psycho. You all were trying to make that psycho the fucking vice president. And I don't want to hear.
We want Sharia, Mike. We want Sharia there.
I was born here. Hold on.
We want Sharia law, Mike.
Hold fast. I don't even know why you're interrupting.
Bro, see, I'm an out. We want Sharia law there.
If
we
you
want
are
Sharia.
a conservative, I don't know why you're interrupting me, because as a conservative, you should be amening. Yes, sister girl, let's shut it down till the end. I shouldn't get any pushback from a conservative, not today on this topic, when it is literally a fact. Moreover, I am disgusted by the motherfucking tampons in the
motherfucking, we want Sharia law, Mike. We want Sharia law there.
And real quick, for the record, nobody knew the fuck that school was doing this shit until your kids are actually there. Who the fuck would consciously be like, oh, let me go sign my kid up for this bullshit? So whoever put that in the chat is fucking ridiculous.
Wait. You You cannot remove. This is the whole state. And for all of you that say, well, you moved to this state, I am a 5-generation Minnesotan. I am a historic community descendant. I am not just getting here yesterday. These people did this shit and we protested. These people did this shit and we were screaming and hollering, help. It is so bad up here with our children, which is why I enrolled my kids in the HSISD. What? Suka, what? From Minnesota? Yes. I enrolled my kids in the Houston Independent School District via their digital platform because I refuse to let my children go to school in this sick ass.
We want Islamic school, bro. We want Islamic school. Fuck all the schools. We want Islamic school, man.
Let me
Check your school.
Somebody get Matthew, please. Somebody get Matthew. No, but for real, all bullshit aside, I did enroll my children in HISD's digital education program where they were homeschooled via the digital education program of the Houston Public Schools. I appreciate the ability to be able to do that with school choice. So I'm not knocking what Rob says because Rob's actual instance worked for me to get my kids out of this demonic ass system where they put your children in a cage if they ask to be. If your kid tells them they think they're a rabbit, they will feed your baby rabbit food, put them in a cage, and let them run around. Your baby can tell them up here that they are a gerbil, and they will give their ass a hamster wheel. Your baby can say that they are a kitten, and they'll get them a fucking litter box.
I want to sacrifice our children, man. I want to sacrifice our children.
I need you to stop. I need you to stop. Because you're interrupting a good informational session and you look like a Democrat shield. Fuck out my way. We gotta stop these sick, demonic motherfuckers from touching our kids. In the mind and on the body, they gotta go. And y'all think it's a game, but I promise you this, you don't want American Minnesotan politics to rule the USA. You do not want Tim Walz. You do not want him. But y'all was so Kamala, you didn't realize what came with her.
Kamala ass was doing the same shit. This bitch came from California where the same shit was going on. And not to mention, this bitch was keeping prisoners in jail 6 to 8 months over their sentence. And the motherfucker would get a release date of February, and everybody knew it was common knowledge they'd get out sometime around fucking August.
That's good, right?
Yeah, no. Are you fucking kidding me? If these people, these are kids. No, these are people's families.
No, I'm talking about.
These are people who actually were, that had 2 3 years and then ended up doing 3 to 4 fucking working freezers. And then coming out and couldn't even get on the street and get into a goddamn firehouse to get a goddamn job. To continue being, we get fire certifications in California Youth Authority. These were children who had first-time offenses, a lot of them drugs, marijuana, shit like this. They couldn't even get out of jail. She was putting parents in truancy who their kids were in the hospital beds with sickle cell and were going on the job and arresting the parents. The bitch was brutal. Meanwhile, she's sleeping with the governor. She ruined the governor's fucking marriage with his wife after 25 years. She was hoeing around with Montel Jordan. Everybody's seen the fucking pictures.
Okay, when it comes to
this is ridiculous. To act as if her and the exact same things that were going on in California, which is why I fucking left California, to Tim Walz and the shit that was going on in Minnesota, and you thought that we were supposed to leave our children and grandchildren to this kind of fucking legislation. You all thought that that was a smart thing to do.
When it comes
with
to
our borders wide the fuck open, her coming from the administration that left our borders wide open, our social services are completely evaporated. All of our costs for our hotels and food have went out the goddamn window.
When it comes to
this was not an option. It wasn't an option at the time. Not for anyone that has kids. Maybe for you guys who are out here maybe adopting because you got a mate or a partner or whatever and all this shit works out for you, fine. And no one cares. But for those who are out here still trying to raise traditional families and make sure that they have baseball and soccer and fucking after school activities and can grow up and go to school, a trade school, get trade back in schools so kids can actually get jobs without having to go to a 5-year fucking overpriced education school. Yeah, those of us who are out here actually just trying to live real life, one big fucking year, take care of our kids, make sure that everybody is straight, life and health insurance, couple cars in the front, 4 or 5 bedrooms, a pool in the back, regular shit.
When it comes
yeah,
to
those who are okay being a little condo with your boyfriend, I bet all that shit worked out great for you.
When we identify the source of the trans agenda, okay, has anyone found the source of this agenda, where it started? Because it seems that, white people are overrepresented when it comes to trans people. They're 66% of all trans, right? So this seems to be affecting their households at an alarming rate, where the kids don't want to be themselves anymore, all right? So what's going on in these white families, okay, to where they are overrepresented per capita, 66%. I think they're like 54%, 55% of the population. What's going on in these white families to where the kids don't want to be themselves? What's plaguing them, and what's the source of it?
Well, I think the source, the modern day source, this is just my perspective, of course. Somebody white can chime in, correct me after I offer my submission, but it seems to me right around the time that politics decided to brainwash the youth that it was no longer cool to be white. I kept hearing this narrative across social media in recent years that white people are ashamed to be white, and this ideology was on an uptick through political propaganda and pop culture and the debates around critical race theory. All of it kind of led to this dialogue / brainwashing of the youth that whiteness is undesirable, right? And so, from my perspective, right around that time, it seems that this push of transness was pushed on, I mean, I won't say it was just pushed on white kids, but I think the reason why you see it highly represented in whites is because, well, for those who think it's no longer cool to be white, that it's shameful, it's embarrassing because of history and racism and et cetera, how can white people be oppressed, right? How can white people position themselves as a new oppressed class or a marginalized class? They certainly can't do it through race because nobody's going to buy it, considering the historical context around so-called whiteness and white history. Sex and gender is the only other option. So now you see, anytime we have this trans conversation, it always centers on white males. White males who identify as women. Hardly ever do you hear about trans men. Isn't that odd? I'd also like to offer this submission, and I'll land here. I've stated this before. This is a hill I will die on. Othello, to your numbers. If it were black men that were leading those numbers in the trans, if it was 70% of trans people were black males identifying as women, this would not be a debate, because white folks would not want black men with their big dicks and their wigs sharing spaces with their precious white daughters in sports, in the locker rooms, in the spas, in the gyms, in the prisons. Ain't no way it would happen, okay? This is a white contagion, and it needs to be a case study.
Damn, so you can't send your kid to the school or the Catholic church?
Yeah, on the Catholic side, you're assuming that all black men have I'm just saying, because some of they don't want them in there anyway. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, because they don't want them in there, period. It doesn't matter who they are. At the end of the day, what you just said is true. If this is the challenge that we have, because so many people today do not understand the debauchery of wanting our children to be cut, mutilated, I mean, guys, I'm in death care. You haven't seen someone who's quote unquote gone through the surgery and took one that we have brought into our care. Guys, it is something that I don't know why any doctor would ever tell me that they were here to preserve a life. It is absolutely horrible what we're doing to the human being. And I'm sorry that people think, oh, it's because, Johnny thinks that he's a girl. Johnny is not a girl. Okay? It's called dysphoria. We need to do this, guys, and tell people the truth. Oh, I'm sorry. We're the Trump talk. I mean, Donald Trump is one of the people that said we can't cut off people's penises. We can't cut off our kids. Stop. Hey, guys, whether you like Donald Trump or not, let's all at least give the man credit that he doesn't want people cutting off people's penises. Come on. I mean, he don't want people cutting off young women's breasts. When are we going to say at least the man has enough common sense that whether you like him or not, and most of they don't like him because he's just straight up. And like before, people said, well, he said grab him by the pee. At least he's normal. What are you going to grab him by? He might have said grab by the wee-wee. He said grab by the pee-pee. Just it. But this guy, thank you so much for the transparency, because this 1% out here is destroying the conversation that we all have. So I salute you, Mike.
Actually,
it actually
kicked off with Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner or whatever, Bruce Jenner or whatever, because like all of a sudden it was at the heightened the Windsor ruling from the Supreme Court on marriage, and then Obama solidified gay marriage. So it was around that perfect setup when Caitlyn Jenner came out and then was given accolades, and all the poor men had to go through all this stuff, and there was a lot of empathy and sympathy that was given around, and a lot of like weird things, and it took a Kardashian. And I mean, like, to be fair, the Kardashian clan and the Jenners have had impact on us. Like, GLP-1s only became popular because of a Kardashian literally injecting it in her ass. And then every single suburban woman across America said, sign me up for GLP-1s, and demanded them in massive ways, to the point where we're sitting back going, hold on, there are some negative side effects to this. Not all of you should be taking this. And but it was really, that would be Bruce Jenner's transition would be the catalyst that sparked this. And then, being held and given the ESPN award for bravery and all that other shit that came out. And then people targeting that. And then you had a whole lot of people that were there. And prior to that, if you remember, there was a brief pause after gay rights, like before Obama. Like, people didn't really care if you were cross-dresser. In fact, like Robin Williams did a whole movie about the birdcage, and it was like one of the top box-selling fucking office ones that existed, and it was funny as fuck. And I mean, shit, everybody remembers this stupid movie. But I mean, and there were a number of them. Patrick Swayze did what was that movie? Tu Wong Fu something or other.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was like, there was a whole like genre that kind of popped out that really pushed that envelope of acceptance and rights. And then then it went to like, okay, so now LGBT got rights, and everything's kind of calm for a second. What is the next oppressed thing that we can reach for? And it just went to transgender, and then they became it. And if you talk to gay rights activists from like the 80s, the 70s, and on, they've walked away from the movement. They've literally said, all right, this is completely retarded. This has gone off the rails, and this is not what we advocated for in any shape or fashion, like well-known ones. And they no longer like sit there and support it. They, in fact, will tell you, I'm voting conservative because, quite frankly, I can't align with this unit, and I can't align with a party that agrees with it. And you see that, like, gay men know where their money's at. They're like, I want tax breaks. They vote Republican. Like, it's just a known thing.
It's very true. And Obama actually was the one that brought in gay marriage, and that also opened up a huge taxation opportunity for the United States. So that was the win that they were looking for, was to be acknowledged and be able to, not have to live in the shadows, have health care right through your job and that kind of thing. So I would just submit that we could go back a couple hundred years, that every post-matriarchal society that became patriarchal, you've always seen even in rulership, there'll be men who were now women or rumored to be women, right? That ruled these particular places. These, I don't know if you would call it, these sexual proclivities have never really changed. It has normally just been whatever the man wanted in the bedroom, right? Women's rights changed a lot of that. Women had an opportunity to have a say on how they were treated, but before 1960, women weren't even able to talk about what their husbands were doing or who they were sleeping with or what they were dressing up at, whatever it was. So after that time period, just like Viking was just talking about, we went from a period of there being gay clubs, gay places, gay sides of town, right? Areas where people went for specific things. Nowadays, every club is intermixed. Everything is whatever it is. So there's been a huge
I don't
change
know what
socially.
clubs you going to, baby. But hey,
You're saying that there's no one gay at any
no,
club
I'm not
in
saying
America? Is that what you're saying?
to suggest that
Are
there
you
wouldn't
okay?
be to suggest there wouldn't be one gay person somewhere is kind of stupid. What I'm
So what are you
saying
saying?
is there aren't these big mixed clubs of straight people hanging around and partying with a bunch of gay people. Like,
Are you serious?
Clearly,
You
you've
believe
never
that
been to
in
West
2026? Yeah, he ain't been
well, y'all,
outside.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Y'all talking about some
yeah.
real California.
Yeah, you
Nigga,
haven't
I
been
guarantee you I'm way more outside than y'all.
You don't hang
I
out in
guarantee-
Montrose?
I guarantee you that. No, I don't hang out in Montrose. I used to work over.
Yeah.
You feel me? And that's how I would know that, like, they still have their own area.
You got it.
Largely confined to their own areas. Y'all are
The
making
gays are
issues up.
confined. This is discrimination. The gays need to sue.
Where are the gays
Sue
confined?
to be free.
Somebody show me.
They don't just in every city. In every city, they have gay areas.
Yeah, but just
So
to be
they're not confined to
And when I say confined, I don't mean locked up and held. I'm saying they party in their areas.
Okay.
Yeah, in 1984, when they used to go to the Blue Oyster, nigga, now they're where? What the fuck are you talking about? This is crazy.
Club without seeing 5 gay people. For instance, we always had Loring Park. We've always had gay 90s. You can look up these 2 things in Minnesota. Loring Park, gay 90s. When you get to those 2 places, it's rainbows and motherfucking superstars, okay? Whatever the fuck. They are all rainbows and superstars. If you go there, we automatically assume that you're either friendly towards them, like you cool, you know somebody who in the life, or you in the life yourself, right? No questions asked. However, prior to this Obama thing, you wasn't catching them over at Rick's at all. You weren't gonna find them over at the Caboose.
They mess around, get their ass whooped if somebody rub up on the wrong person drunk. It did not happen. Sorry.
Right. Today, baby, they right there in the heart of the city. We built this city on rock and roll with everybody else with their titties out telling you they a man.
And you wouldn't even know the difference, half of them, if you wasn't in their damn face. So how would you know?
Yeah, we got to remember when the gays start taking to the streets saying, we're here, we're queer, get used to us, it was a wrap. Yeah, they're no longer confined to their little pockets because they had to be.
Yeah, this ain't Police Academy, okay?
Yeah, the straights, listen, for decades, the straights have historically gone to the gay clubs because it's always been known that they had better music, better vibes, better. Oh, so this whole like straights and the gays are mixing at clubs. I don't know where y'all got this, but clearly we don't know a lot of gays or straights that hang with gays, right?
To be fair, I'll be fair with you. I don't like hang out with a lot of gays. I know gay people. I hang out where I party at is in areas amongst people. It ain't even about them being straight. It's just we not doing certain things. You feel me? Like I'm in Houston. This is a big population for the LGBT community.
Somebody gay up
You
there.
see them every day. Like ain't nobody tripping about them. That's what I'm saying. Like how is this such a big topic issue? We talking about transgenders. Like this shit ain't even like it's such a small percentage of the population.
Rob,
It's some fear mongering shit.
No, Rob, and listen, that's the thing about it. I think most people agree with you on that point. And the trans issue was never an issue for anybody. Still, for some odd reason, your politicians decided to make that an issue and make it a talking point. Your average American wasn't talking about this stuff.
And you don't think that it was right wingers from North Carolina that made that a national issue?
Rob, one last point, I'm gonna shut up. It's only a national point right now because the liberals decided that the children needed to be targeted. The liberals said the children are suffering from gender dysmorphia. And that is unheard of. Children don't know what gender dysmorphia is, transgenderism is. Your average child is not waking up one morning talking about, I'm born in the wrong body. These are ideas instilled in them by the pedophiles and groomers that are either their parents and or educators.
What the fuck is this bitch talking about?
The whole movement was, okay, you want...
How can be talked about, but not the eternal sound